Hey church, wanted to give us another midweek update, and this time it's coming from a very strange location. Let's see if I can get the angle right. Yeah, it's a mailbox. Normally I try to focus our discussions around something a little bit more spiritual in nature or directly spiritual, but in light of the email that we sent out yesterday about some issues we've had with our mail and perhaps somebody getting into the mailbox at night when there were donation checks in there, I wanted to fill you in on some of the more details. First and foremost, this is not an active problem. Apparently, at least on two different intervals, starting as far back as August and then the next one in December, someone did pilfer the mailbox, apparently, unless the mail was interrupted at the point of where it was deposited. But we believe that someone came in, opened the mailbox, and pulled out some envelopes in there, and were able to take those checks that they found inside and find someone who would allow them to cash them out. Now, these checks were made out by members to the church, made out to Cross Gates United Methodist Church, and interestingly, the payee was not changed. In fact, on the back, the endorsement was never made. So this is a failure of the bank of following their protocols. And this was actually 3 or 4 different banks. So we, the staff, have helped a couple of members resolving this issue. But I'm pleased to report that all of the banks that failed to follow their own protocols have reimbursed the money back into the accounts of the church members. So we're going to work with the banks and law enforcement if we need to see if we can figure out if there's a connection. But I don't want to just ramble along about this. We did make a prudent decision. I called up Joe Squires, our chair of the trustees, and said, Joe, this is what's going on. Can I go and purchase a locking mailbox? And so I want y'all to see that we now have a locking mailbox, and you can put the mail in, but you can't get it out without a key. So prudent. Accountability is really what this is about. But to clarify again, this was a failure of the banks to not double check the back of the checks that were being cashed or deposited and allowed them to pass. But everyone who this affected had the money by their banks, but the banks reimbursed their accounts. So again, it's not really a spiritual lesson for us to learn, I suppose, but I really wanted to give you all a clarification of really what had happened. It's not an active problem that we're aware of. It may have only happened twice, but it did involve at least 5 or 6 church members, and though they were able to get that money put back in their accounts. So maybe there is a link to accountability. Ever since about a year and a half ago, 2 years, we began to send out monthly giving statements. And the church members who were able to find the problem were able to go back and look at their giving statements from us and realize that they had written a check, but it didn't show up on their giving statements to the church. And that's that extra layer of accountability, that extra layer of stewardship, the extra layer of being under authority. So we send those monthly statements out because we want you to double check, because we want to make sure that you know that you're being a good steward and that we're being a good steward. We're all under accountability. There's a double check, a triple check. And what happens when we're not under accountability, or those accountability factors are not put into play, like you see at the bank, then it gets messed up and you have a system that gets messed up. And that gets me thinking about this Sunday. We've been in this discussion during Epiphany about what does it mean to be a disciple. Hearing a call directly from the Lord, hearing it through other people, hearing it as we move day to day. We talked about the challenge of discipleship. What does it really mean? Are we ready to bear the cost? But this Sunday, we're going to look at how our calling into discipleship comes out of the congregation and back into the congregation. And there's a form of accountability. And we're going to look at the challenge that Moses gave to the Israelites about those who would come later, how God would call up prophets to come and continue to preach what God expected, and that there was accountability, both for those to put into practice the good word, but also on those who brought the good word to make sure that they were preaching the good word. And so, church, thank you for being such an accountable church. Thank you for your diligence in monitoring your giving, and thank you for your faithfulness in your giving. And thank you for those the limited number who this affected, for coming back and replacing those checks as your offering. And so all of this is really about accountability, and it's about stewardship, but it's also about our calling in Christ, to follow him in service, to follow him knowing that it means that we come under the authority that we need to be under, even the authority of a mailbox, of making sure that we secure things in the right way. So Crossgates, y'all keep it up. But prepare yourself for this Sunday as we continue to dig deep into being called by Christ out of the world, out of the congregation, to go back into the congregation so that we can go back into the world and offer the peace and truth of Jesus Christ. I see Christ in you.